Hi, this is John Morgan. You're watching my series on new distinctions for entrepreneurs. By distinction, I mean you take something that you know is one thing and you look at a nuance of it, an aspect. Suddenly you see that one thing is two things. You suddenly have choice where before you had none. Choice with which you can create a new inner world that is your experience and a new outer world that means the actual results you create in the world. In this series, I'll be looking at some usual entrepreneur stuff in unusual ways that will empower you to be more fulfilled, more effective, and more successful as an entrepreneur. This is video number 5, how to write an agreement. So we live in a world of litigation and documentation and contracts, and I get so bogged down by it sometimes. I mean, it used to be in property, and the amount of papers we had to sign to buy a piece of property, a house, a land, whatever I was buying, it was enormous and ridiculous. And I go through the whole visa process. I've gotten passports and visas in other countries, and the stacks of paper and documentation that I have to generate and create, it's ridiculous. I mean, people still use fax machines, it's so archaic. And whatever. It's the world we live in, right? But how can we be in that world in a way that's more effective, that's more fulfilling, that creates more success for us? My interest is that. And one insight here is when writing contracts, do it as a way of recording instead of a way of deferring. And what do I mean by that? Too often, contractual agreements are created by lawyers, some third party who don't care about the relationship between you and the person you're contracted with. I get that lawyers are important. I get that language needs to be brought in because of the world we live in. And at the same time, the relationship you have between the other human beings at that organization are a fundamental part of whether that contract and the way it and the terms in it, where if something bad were to happen, the relationship is more important, because if you can keep that intact, if you can create great human-to-human rapport, the chance that you're going to have to actually ever utilize a contract in a court of law is much, much less. So, this is especially true. I'm thinking, like in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about, is this really true at like Fortune 100 size companies? I don't know. I haven't experienced it personally. I haven't gone there. I'm sure it is on some level, but I can't say exclusively that it's true. But I know for sure on small business, on even medium-sized business, where there's personal relationships along the lines of every contract thread, that the relationship is so important. And so here's the thing. If you are writing contracts and agreements, to avoid having specific conversations or particular conversations, to have to look the other person in the eyes and have the difficult, uncomfortable chat about if this were to not work out, or what if you don't pay, or what if this happens or that happens, the uncomfortable things we don't want to say. If you're deferring that to the contract agreement, you're letting that stuff be in black and white in text, and we're just having a nice lovey-dovey relationship by ignoring all the other possible stuff that could go on, then you're setting yourself up for failure in that relationship. As soon as something doesn't start to work out, it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about. You didn't talk about it before. You're probably not going to talk about it now. It's in the contract, and your relationship starts being deferred into that contractual paper, litigation, lawyer, legal agreement instead of this human-to-human bond, which is actually safer and more secure because it's pliable, it's ambiguous, it's emotional, it's got other aspects to it, right? Whereas that thing's black and white. It doesn't bend, it breaks. And so what if instead of creating agreements as ways of deferring conversations you didn't want to have, what if you took a contract that you already had and you sat down and you went through every single item in that contract with the person, eye to eye, the uncomfortable part you got on the same page, human to human, person to person at the beginning of this relationship. And then this contract is now a document. It's a recording of these person-to-person agreements that you've felt and you've made eye to eye, handshake to handshake, hug to hug, bow to bow, whatever you do. And maybe you don't even have a pre-existing contract. Maybe you just think about and talk about all these things, and you record all the things you talk about, and the contractual agreement gets created from that. It's recording of things that have already been agreed, as opposed to the deferment of things that haven't been discussed. Now, you might think, well, that takes a lot more time. Investing this time up front into the relationship, into an understanding of an eye-to-eye agreement about every term, I promise, especially on the small, medium-sized business side, it's the scale, the impact of that relationship is so much more powerful. It's worth the time. And this is worth the time. Much love. So if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel, click the button, and also share with your friends. Share the love. Tweet it, Facebook it, Google Plus it, LinkedIn it, whatever you do, get it out there. And of course, if you really want to engage in this idea, down below in the comments, the discussion, the dialogue is where the best insights come. challenge me, ask me questions. I will get back to you. Your ideas, your comments help me to create more videos. Finally, if you're interested in learning all about what I do, my personal coaching for leaders, artists, musicians, sole proprietors, anybody who's a creative force in the world and creating their own things, check out my website. Also, if you're a coach and you want to learn more about my apprenticeship or learn more about how I create coaching clients, check out my website, link down below. Much love.